In the middle of a cold winter, a queen sits by an ebony window. While sewing, she pricks her finger, and 3 drops of bright red blood are spilled onto the windowsill. Looking at the red on the white snow, she wishes for a child with these exact traits. Soon after, a daughter is born, with skin like snow, lips like blood, and hair like ebony. She is named Snow White. This period of peace is brief. The queen dies, and within a year, the king marries a woman whose beauty is matched only by cruelty. This new queen refuses to let anyone surpass her in appearance, marking the start of a regime centered on physical supremacy. Traditional law and royal duties are set aside, as the queen spends her hours in front of a mirror instead of the court. The kingdom is managed through a fragile, subjective vanity, requiring her to be the most beautiful at all times to maintain her grip on power. Her authority rests on the magic mirror. In a kingdom governed by pride, the mirror acts as the only source of objective, unyielding truth. Every morning she stands before it and asks who is the fairest of all. The mirror always confirms her status, providing the daily validation she needs to keep her ego intact. But when Snow White turns 7, she naturally ages into a beauty that exceeds the queen's. The biological reality of growth begins to threaten the queen's singular source of power. This chart tracks the mirror's metric for beauty. While the queen's level remains static, Snow White's surpasses it. The mirror reports this change as a factual update. The queen is fair, but Snow White is fairer. The queen chooses to eliminate her competition. She hires a huntsman to take Snow White into the forest and kill her, demanding the girl's heart as physical proof of the deed. When narcissism is confronted with an undeniable fact that it cannot control, it resorts to lethal violence to silence the source of that truth. The assassination fails. When the huntsman raises his knife, he sees Snow White's innocence and finds he cannot kill her. He spares her life, kills a wild boar instead, and brings its heart back to the queen to trick her. Snow White is left alone, running for hours through a deep forest where the trees seem to loom over her. She flees into the terrifying unknown, away from the only home she has ever known. She eventually reaches a clearing containing a small house. Inside, she finds everything arranged in groups of 7, plates, cups, and beds. This is the isolated micro-world of the 7 dwarfs. She makes a deal to clean and cook for the dwarfs in exchange for protection. She believes the cottage is a safe haven, but she has only temporarily stepped outside the reach of the queen's tracking. Back at the palace, the queen asks the mirror again and learns the truth. The mirror reveals Snow White's exact location, beyond the hills, living with the 7 dwarfs. Realizing she cannot trust a proxy, the queen takes the assassination into her own hands. She disguises herself and prepares to strike at Snow White directly. Disguised as a peddler, she offers Snow White beautiful laces. She gains the girl's trust through a naive appreciation for fashion, then pulls the laces so tight that Snow White collapses from a lack of air. The dwarfs return and save her by cutting the laces. They impose a strict security protocol. Snow White must never let anyone inside the cabin again. This matrix tracks the queen's tactical shift. Upgrading to chemical warfare, she uses a poisoned comb, leaving Snow White lifeless. Though revived, each failed attempt increases lethality, drastically narrowing the window for survival. The queen engineers a final complex weapon, an apple poisoned only on the red side. This design is intended to bypass the dwarf's warnings by using the queen's own consumption of the safe white side as proof of the fruit's safety. The trick works. Seeing the old woman eat the white half, Snow White bites into the red half and falls dead. The dwarfs return, but this time they cannot find a way to revive her. Envy will continuously iterate its methods until it overcomes a target's willingness to trust a stranger. The dwarfs cannot bear to bury her, so they build a transparent glass coffin and place it on a mountain peak. They stand guard over her body for days as she remains unchanged by time. A prince eventually discovers the coffin and is struck by its contents. He convinces the dwarves to let him take the coffin and the girl back to his castle so he can honor her beauty. As the servants carry her, one of them stumbles on a tree root. The physical jolt dislodges the poisoned apple from her throat. Snow White wakes up. Her survival is the result of a blunt, mechanical accident of physics rather than a calculated rescue. Now awake, Snow White returns to her status as royalty. She agrees to marry the prince, and a massive wedding is planned for the entire region. The mirror tells the queen that a new queen at the wedding is now the fairest of all. Driven by a compulsion she cannot ignore, the queen attends the feast just to see who has surpassed her. A trap is waiting for her at the feast. Iron shoes have been heated in a fire until they glow red, and they are brought out before the guests. The queen is forced to put on the shoes and perform a terminal dance. The heat keeps her moving until she finally collapses. Snow White survived because her presence inspired the dwarfs to guard her and the prince to move her. By inspiring a network of care, she created the conditions where a lucky accident could save her life. The queen, having alienated her subjects through her obsession, finds herself alone in the iron shoes.